Hello everyone. My name is Ali Akbar, and I head the strategy and market intelligence function within Idemia Digital Business Unit. Just a quick intro about the company. Idemia is the merger between two French companies called Uberta Technologies and Morpho. Traditionally, the business has been was providing payment cards, personalization, and payment solutions to banking industry. Also, SIM cards and connectivity solutions to telcos. And on the government sector, we have been providing identity documents and identity solutions to governments, to public sector, and to law enforcement authorities. Some very relevant figures for this forum. We, Idemia, as a company, is serving clients in 180 countries, and we serve around 1,800 financial institutions, mainly banks, around the world. Uh, we produce almost 800 million payment cards every year. As far as the digital space is concerned, we digitize and tokenize almost 4 million cards every month. We do have service centers across 40 countries to serve the personalization of these cards in around the world. On the Since this topic of today's discussion is linked to the digital identity solution, just want to highlight some of our identity landscape around the world. We supply identity programs to over 135 civil identity programs are running around the world. One of the largest biometric project deployed. In fact, it is the largest in terms of number of biometrics enrolled. Is the Aadhaar program that we have deployed. It's 1.3 billion people biometric is stored, and the biometric contains face, iris, and fingerprint, all of them. In addition, we are the number one driving license issuance in US. 30 out of 50 states are using our technology and documents for that. Um, the topic of today's session, where our solution addresses, is the digital role of digital identity for the disadvantaged groups. We all understand, over a billion people are still excluded from the. I mean, they lack a formal or informal document, electronic or physical, which exclude them from the financial, economic, and social cycle. And we all understand that digital identity is, playing a transformational role in helping those countries and organizations to leapfrog the implementation of paper-based system and move directly into the implementation of digital identity solutions, and serving, including those people. But more importantly, digital identity is playing a significant role in the private and public sector to address the grant subsidies and disbursement of humanitarian services that are going on to reach those disadvantaged people. The challenges in this process are very well known. There's, of course, lack of formal IDs, lack of bank accounts. Proximity is another challenge. These people live long distance. They have to travel long distances to avail those services and get their benefits, sometimes more than 70 kilometers. And the biggest challenge is the proof of life, due to which there are a lot of leakages, corruptions internally by those who provide those services, when it is misused by the employees themselves, and by the family members who use the benefits on behalf of the real beneficiary. Ghost accounts exist. People who have died still continue withdrawing money if they're misused. And the other one is the deduplication or the duplication. Same beneficiary enrolled multiple times, withdrawing those. So we understand that the biometric, in fact, digital identity biometric has played a significant role in the proof of life, and linking that identity of beneficiary, a biometric along with that, helps solve a lot of those challenges. There are solutions which already exist, but there are challenges and pain points. With these existing solutions, there are multiple vendors to manage. This is a problem that a lot of providers have faced. In order to come up with a full solution, they rely on vendors who provide a fingerprint sensor or a card reader or a POS device, printing machines, the agent network, how to manage that, no control over agents. All this increases the cost of operations. It's very cumbersome process, and it's overall very painful and challenging to serve, and not just for the providers, but also the beneficiaries. They have to go through a lot of pain to get their what they deserve. The solution that what we propose is around the both enrollment and the disbursement or authentication, what we call during the transactions of these disbursements. We provide a mechanism, one solution, one platform, a digital identity platform, which supports both enrollment and disbursement. Of course, this starts with capturing the biometrics as part of this solution, because this is mainly targeted for the disadvantaged, considering that they will not have the smartphones or those devices. So we take the model of assisted onboarding and assisted disbursement. That means there has to be an agent involved. So we do capture all the biometrics. Iris can be captured, but that depends on the device. But still, on the enrollment side, you can do that. But during the transactions, you have to see it increases the infrastructure cost. So we limit it to face capture. That's the proposed, the face capture and the fingerprint capture. In order to also increase the range and the reach of and open another channel, we do provide the offline capability of verification areas where connectivity would be a challenge. So that for that reason, a payment card or a card is also issued along with this digital program, just to enable those offline transactions, because the biometric is stored on the card as well. So that enables the offline channel as well. The third one is the setup and the acquisition of the pay points, which is the field agent. So through this same platform, there is a agent enterprise and a platform which allows the banks, if they are the owners of the beneficiary, or the other third parties, to allocate or to assign those jobs to their agents, and automatically they'll get the notification and they provide the services. So the whole network of agents is managed through the same platform. And finally, during the disbursement and authentication of these in-kind or the cash benefits, again, the biometric verification is used. Lastly, of course, reporting auditing is an important aspect. Uh, to explain, it's a bit busy slide, but I think it's important. I thought to bring the entire flow for a better visualization. So starting from on the left side, what you see is the onboarding process, how these beneficiaries are onboarded, and on the right side, you see the usage of those, or the disbursement of the authentication once those users are enrolled. So during the onboarding, the agent will assist the user, capture the whatever documents are allowed or supported by the regulators in that program. You capture that, you capture the biometrics. If there is if there's a root of trust within the country, you match it with that. If it is not, we simply capture those biometric and finally create that identity in a central database and also store it on the card. Now, of course, we can go into detail of these, the what else this identity platform provides, but for the sake of time, we'll limit it to this discussion here. And then once this identity is created, though the focus of this solution today, what we are presenting, it is the disbursement, but if through the same platform, through the same technology, banks or the solution provider can extend the service to branches banking or to agency banking features as well, such as money withdrawals, cash balances, and all that, because these agents are in the field already providing the disbursement, so they can provide those additional banking. But it's up to the bank how they want to scale it. What you see on the bottom of the slide is again other use cases that can be scalable by the same platform, not necessarily for the disadvantage. But having said that, with the same platform, with the same technology, you can onboard your existing customers through self onboarding remotely, sitting at home. What Kenneth mentioned earlier, similar technologies that we also have. verifying your documents and face and liveness, all that is done. And similarly, on the authentication side, log into your bank apps or certain other facilities that you want to avail. Through the same platform, you can scale that. Uh, as I mentioned, it's very important since this is assisted. So there has to be a device, and there are many. It's not just our device here, but there are multiple vendors providing similar devices with could be a POS device or could be a tablet, which has the capability of capturing the fingerprints, capturing the face. There is a card slot, there is a SAM reader. So all that comes into one device. But considering the COVID situation and also the cost of the infrastructure, what one of the technology that we bring in as part of the solution, in especially with the COVID, where the touch is to be avoided. Also, this can reduce the infrastructure cost. Then also open up Uber of services of agents through these platform is a fingerprint capture through the smartphone device. Here, what you see in this video is I'm just for the demo purpose, I'm enrolling myself, quick face capture, a quick enrollment of my finger just using a smartphone camera. And the enrollment takes a bit more time, up till 5 seconds, because it's doing multiple captures. All four fingers are being captured at this time. Now this enrollment is done, and during the authentication, you can imagine when agent visit a user or during self-enrollment, user just has to present his four fingers in front of the camera, and in a second or less than a second, the match can happen. So this is what we bring in as part of the, to increase that scalability. As far as detail of the architecture is concerned, I've already mentioned this, but just to mention here, the flow continues in the same way. The data is provided by the government to the bank or number of banks. Bank has to enroll and that data into the identity platform system. From there, they will create either a personalization record if the card has also to be personalized, and they will also load the process into the agent platform for the either it is outsourced to a third party agency, or the banks, if they have their own agent network, they can easily assign those tasks of whether onboarding these number of beneficiaries today, or the disbursement of these number of beneficiaries in certain areas. So the agents will automatically receive a notification, and they can schedule their visits and capture the enrollment of the biometrics and other enrollment process, what you see in block number 3 here. Once all that is done, the system also updates back as a backup into the identity platform as well on the card. Similarly, during the transaction phase, both financial and non-financial transactions are dispersed in the same way. One additional element which is added here is the stock and item management for in-kind benefits. If it is managed by a third party, then of course that list has to be uploaded in the system again. And during the same method, the agents will get that information uploaded. The distribution companies will have the updated records of the stock of each beneficiary, what they are allowed to withdraw. And during the transaction, a user will visit one of those disbursement stations, and they can get their required benefits, either cash or in payment, offline or online through the verification of their biometrics at the back end. One of the case study I would like to mention here is the Jharkhand State Cooperative Bank in India, where we have deployed a similar solution. And so far, we have enabled around 4,000 banking agents who provide these services and cover around 40,000 villages with a population of 120 million. Project has just started 6 months down the road, but we have already seen 2,500 transactions are being conducted through this channel, through this platform every day. And that's one of the use cases. Then we have a couple of others also in India, and we are doing a POC in Africa as well now. Finally, just closing my session, of course, something very important as a private-public dialogue, I think very important for regulators to come into this and make the implementations and standards to make sure the interoperability exists. And this will, of course, have the other technology providers to be included, and this helps the innovation as well. So defining those standards and interoperability is very important. Second thing is the centralized database. If this can be provided at a consortium level or as a third party within a country, for example, if 4 or 6 banks are allowed or selected by the government to offer these beneficiaries. They will be a central database will help the cross bank sharing of biometric data and will also help in the reduplication cases. So I leave the floor for any questions now. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Ali, for your presentation, and that was bang on 15 minutes. So well done for keeping to time. I would like to start by inviting our panel of judges, and I can see Professor Douglas is ready with a question. So please go ahead, Professor.
Hey, Ali, great presentation and really interesting. Two questions. The first is, have you seen an increase in demand for services over the past year with COVID?
Increase in demand of the technology, yes. The number of beneficiaries, this specific program still remain the same. We do hear about that, these beneficiaries are not able to, get those benefits or, but the numbers are the same. But yes, challenges are there. That is one of the reasons we are contacted by many of our existing, customers who are requesting for to assess those, and that is the reason the fingerprint capture, what you saw, that is one of the technology we are now bringing in to assess that contactless as well, which will encourage those agents also to visit, and also the beneficiaries will be comfortable in not touching something. So that's from a hygienic point of view, that's very important that we are getting a lot of push. We have a reference, I would say, in Pakistan, the BASP program, which is totally a disbursement of money to women. And in fact, we were working with them on we do have a product which is a biometric card. The sensor is on the card itself. So so we were working on that project, but due to COVID, they stopped that. And we are moving directly into this 4F, what we call it, to the scan. And now they are looking into that technology to see how this can be rolled out instead of having a physical card. So that is something which change we have seen.
Very interesting, thanks. And the second really relates to, I guess, the core of the solution is a centralized database. And I'm wondering, how are you beginning to look at sort of decentralized networked data solutions or authentication systems as well as centralized approaches? If not, why sticking with the centralized approach?
Very good question. Very good question. Absolutely right. Especially with the GDPR, with the with the data privacy concerns, this is coming more and more into the role where identity either stored on the phone or even a decentralized model with the blockchain technology is kicking in. One of the reasons that you see, at least for the offline one, the card which holds your biometric is part of that, and that is one of the reasons we are looking. We have solutions not specifically for the disadvantaged one, because for that you need that smartphone or any device that can store that. That is the reason for this particular program, we are still counting and continuing with the assisted mode. But yes, we do have mobile ID, what you call, where your identity is actually stored on the device. In this case, to cover that, we are providing this card itself. Otherwise, in other markets where the smartphone penetration is good, the identity can be actually stored on the phone itself and can be leveraged and can support this model. But the world is going that way, even for such beneficiary programs. Also, the data privacy. In fact, storing this data also centrally, when we are storing it, from the regulators, we are obliged to follow that, and that is one of the reasons we sometimes, in fact, for the program so far, we are not even storing the sex, we are not storing the date of birth. All the PA information is not stored. It's only the biometrics, which is not linked to any, so it cannot be. So that those kind of things, even in the central, are being taken care of.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Douglas. Please allow me to invite Clarissa or Jay if you have questions.
Thank you. My question is, if you got engaged by a country, who are the main people you'd be talking to? Policymakers, regulators, industry players? And then my second question is on if a country had a an ID system already. How easy would it be to integrate with yours? Is it something that they can plug in?
Yeah.
Especially for the add-on. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for the question. First one, yes, we realize the need of talking to the ecosystem players, all the ecosystem players in such programs specifically. Not an expert area. It's a commercial company. Our goals have always been, our customers have always been banks. But in the last 2 years, we've realized the need of having that, from a responsibility point of view as well, to engage with these global players. So now we do have a function within Idemia, which is the engagement group, which keeps in touch and talking with all these global players. But as far as the country is concerned, with such programs, we are more and more interacting now with the state banks, the central banks of the countries. Example I gave, but those engagements are mainly towards proving a concept. A technology testing. Those regulators do not have those expertise where they can test, but at least the concept is proven, and then they ask and they pick up a couple of banks and push for that POCs and get the comfort level from those banks. But definitely we are in touch with them, providing them the best practices, the benchmarks, especially on the facial recognition. A lot of central banks are reaching out us to share with them the best practices. The advantage that we have is that we are providing these systems to governments, as part of our offering in any case to the countries. So that helps us. To answer your second question, which was if you could please remind me, sorry, I just missed on that. What was the second question?
Yeah, I asked if a country had some minimal
Yes.
national ID system, whether it's easy to integrate with yours.
Absolutely. So definitely the country where there is already a national identity system especially if it already has that biometrics, it is encouraged by those countries to use that. And that is the reason when I mentioned during the enrollment as well, you need to verify, and most of the regulations are built in a way that you need to first verify with the national database as a root of trust to verify if it is the same person, just to have one source of identity which is already available. This also, of course, bring that interoperability point of view as well, that all solution providers can connect to the same. What you have seen, even in India, we started providing these solutions to many individual, banks and other players. But when Aadhaar came in, most of those technology or the solutions had to be changed to leverage on the Aadhaar system, which already captures those biometric of 95% of the population. Similarly, in other countries, we see that. So yes, definitely it helps if the country already has that. But the advantage of such a platform is if it does not exist, then there also, as you mentioned, as you saw in the recommendation I made, it is always preferred that central banks or the regulators come into the play and try to have this at a consortium level, or at least at a level where all the banks can use a central location to have that, the interoperability among them, the deduplications can be checked, and the cross banking can be enabled. So that is the preferred way. If there are scalability issue, or if there are issues in that, then we move down to large banks itself and to cover that but of course the recommended one is from the top level. If it is a country level, it is the best, following that at the consortium level, and then to a group of banks or individual banks.
We have just a couple of minutes remaining in the session, Ali, but I would like to ask a couple of questions that have come into the chat, and then I'll finally turn to Jay at the end. So questions in the chat, firstly, one is about the public sector institutions responsible for the legal and regulatory framework of your operations. So does this tend to be the central bank, or are there other institutions involved in that? And then there are two questions that are both about data protection. In fact, how do you ensure that personal data, sensitive personal data, such as biometrics, is adequately stored and protected? So if you could very briefly, please give us maybe 30 seconds on each of those questions.
Yeah, Sure. The first question, I think partially I answered in my the previous response. Yes, we do discuss with the banks, with the regulators on the frameworks, the best practices. Those are wherever we can assist. We assist that the solutions that we have are first. The banks are normally very much familiar with the regulations in a country as far as the central banks are concerned. So they initially share with us that those regulations. Our channel through central banks are mainly through the banks, but definitely if it's a consortium, we are also put in touch with the central bank of a country where we can prove that solution and how the framework could be improved as well. That is something which we do. On the second question, which is around data protection, of course, these are you can imagine a country hosting the largest database. Security is of course paramount importance, and there are standards. Of course, first of all, there's encryption through the transfer of these biometrics. Then your biometrics, these are templates which are stored, which are not reversible. There are a lot of technology working on that. There are formats which are stored in a hash only, so it cannot be reverse engineered. So all those encryption and security measures are taken when storing these identities. And finally, those countries who do have the data privacy and concerns to that much. This is where we are storing identity on the phone, with the customer itself in a form of a card that even further reduces that risk of a fraud or something that can happen to a central database. So that's where the world is going. That's where the regulator is going, towards more decentralized and towards identity on the edge rather than a central database.
Thanks so much, Ali. And I'm afraid we are now at time for today's session. So we'd like to thank you very much for your really informative and rich presentation today.